Hey there, guys, and a big welcome back to the Blaze TV podcast. Ed, Kimberley, and Stu Coles with you. And on this edition, new Blaze defenseman, a familiar face, however, Colton Saucerman. Colton, a big welcome to the podcast and a big welcome to the Blaze. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, thanks, boys, for having me on. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is literally all ours. I'm going to take you down memory lane as well here, so I hope you're ready to dust off some stories. And I'm actually going to go back to growing up in Colorado because you grew up at a really interesting time for hockey in the state because the Avalanche had come to town. While you were a kid, they won a couple of Stanley Cups. The whole scene started to thrive and boom. Just talk to us a little bit about growing up in that wave, if you like, of hockey that had just come to town.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I was very young when the Avs won their first Stanley Cup, and for sure had an influence on my life. My dad grew up playing and was a huge fan, and my earliest memories were going to the university, Colorado College, to watch their games and getting up to see Avalanche games when I could, and watching them on TV. I think was like a nightly ritual. But yeah, obviously it was huge to shape my dream of trying to, do something with hockey for a career. And yeah, I definitely thank the Avs winning a couple of cups for that.
Patrick War, I think, has inspired a lot of guys over the years. It must have been pretty helpful having him in the hometown. But talking a little bit about Junior, you crossed paths with some quite big fish because you were in Corpus Christi for a little while, but that year also spent some time up in Dubuque, and that was a pretty star-studded lineup. I mean, Jim Montgomery was behind the bench. He's now with the St. Louis Blues. He's been with Dallas and Boston, I think. The late great Johnny Gaudreau was a teammate of yours. Girgensons was there too. What do you remember of that year? It must have been a bit of a whirlwind.
Yeah, it was for sure. Had played my senior year of college in Des Moines the year prior, and kind of got traded out of training camp. And then, obviously my time in Dubuque was fairly short, but just with differences between, I think, Montgomery and I. Obviously, he was doing great things, and the team ended up having a ton of success without me. So maybe I was the reason. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my time in Corpus after that, and was in the USHL again the following year in Lincoln. Yeah, my junior experience was great. I think that I just being an American kid growing up when I did college hockey was all we thought about.
Mm.
And I hadn't really had any offers to go to the major junior route, so it kind of always seemed to me that I wanted to try to, pay my parents back for all the hockey of trying to get an education, and obviously that was instilled from a young age that was what I should do, and I wanted to do it. And so yeah, I was though both those leagues I think were instrumental in shaping me into you know a halfway decent player to get a scholarship to play.
Because it was quite an interesting story around this because you were originally going to go to UMass Lowell, and I think there was a coaching change there or something, and you ended up going to Northeastern, and that was actually quite an interesting. Before we go into that, talk to us about that whole decision process because you crossed paths with a UMass Lowell a little bit later on in your NCAA career too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had committed there when I was young, 17, before my first season of junior, coming right out of the development festivals every year. I, committed as a 17-year-old. Our plan was to try to play 2 years of juniors and then go in, and see if I was ready and everything. But in that time, there was a coaching change, and my dad told me that I should, play for somebody who recruited me. It was nothing. Norm Bazin took over the job and did a great job with that program, and they're still a powerhouse in college hockey. But I think I just wanted to try to play for somebody who recruited me, and I think that's what any player wants. They just want to be appreciated and valued. And when I spoke to Northeastern after I decommitted when I was in Lincoln, it felt like a good fit, and ended up having a little bit of success there.
Yeah, absolutely. You had some reference points too, because a bunch of your Lincoln teammates came across with you. Zach Aston Reese, Kevin Roy, both of those guys have played in the NHL, and former Blazer player Dax Lowers was there as well. I guess that link came in handy, and did it influence your decision at all?
Yeah, I think we kind of obviously we were teammates all that year too in Lincoln, so it just was we all kind of talked about it, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to continue to play with each other. And Reese ended up coming in a year after us, but yeah, I mean, all turned out to be exceptional players, and still friends to this day for sure.
Now, Dax Flowers is one of the more interesting fellas that we've had in the Blaze organization because I seem to remember that when we asked him what he was going to do, when he hung him up, he said he was going to go. I think it was a sea cucumber fisherman that he wanted to be. What do you remember about Dax? And did you guys ever pair up?
Yeah, we were D partners my freshman year at school, and we were roommates as well. So yeah, I got to know Dax really well, and I'm surprised he's not wrestling grizzly bears or something too. But yeah, I know he's loving it, loving life back up in Alaska, and yeah, again, haven't talked to him in a while. I should reach out to him.
Well, if I had to get into a fight with either a bear or a sea cucumber, I think I know what I'm going to choose. I don't know whether he was just having us on, and this is
Yeah.
uh this is a joke that stuck like 6 or 7 years later. But hey ho. But just tell us a little bit about your time at Northeastern, because like looking through year on year, it looked like it was something that was building. Each year, you're inching a little bit closer to that inevitable division title.
Yeah, it takes time to, my class was the first recruiting class for the new coaching staff that came in. And so it takes time to build programs up until like get yourself a team that you've fully recruited. You're kind of dealing with a patch job of recruit. And now even today, the NCAA transfer,
Mm.
wire is just kind of crazy. And so it seems like you have to be very selective about who you're bringing in. And, so it takes time to like build that. And I felt like each year we got closer and closer. And yeah, senior year, wasn't exactly how we drew it up in terms of being, I think, second to last heading into Christmas and then basically winning every single game other than one game in the second half of our season to find ourselves in a position to win the Hockey East title and get a berth into the brackets. But yeah, it was a crazy run and capped off an amazing career. I mean, it was very different. I mean, living in Boston, it's like not normal college
Mm.
vibes, like
Yeah.
the campus was the city. So the city was kind of your playground. And, I lived close to Fenway. So it was just like there was so much to do. And I felt like it flew by because we were just having so much fun, being in the city and playing.
And Hockey East is a shark tank as well. I mean, just looking at the run to the division title, Maine, Notre Dame, Boston College, and then your old friends in UMass Lowell. Tell us a little bit about that run because that must have been some tough hockey.
Yeah, I mean, all these schools were just so deep. I think while I was there, and they've only continued to get better. And I'm probably a little biased for sure, but I think it's the best top to bottom, college hockey conference in the country. Just everybody you're playing on a nightly basis is ranked very high, and 4 or 5 teams at least make the tournament every single year. So it was very, very competitive and just very different styles too. You'd face the finesse, the skill game of BU and New Hampshire and BC, and then you'd have to go and grind and get hit and play hard hockey against Providence and Maine and Lowell and like so it just was different hockey every night. And it was an absolute pleasure to play there.
There's a little bit of I guess transferable experience there in terms of the NCAA playoffs into the Elite League playoffs and in some ways the Challenge Cup. In that you have really kind of a short series in 3 games, and then the final you drop down to that one game, and watched a moderate amount of NCAA hockey over the years. Kind of a force of habit, I suppose, with having lots of guys coming through various programs, but those final games, no matter what division you're in, they are always just barn burners. They're always tense. You can feel the atmosphere through your laptop screen. What's it like to play in one of those?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, obviously that you it's like a game 7 too, right? So it's, I haven't played in a few of those too over my career. Like it's kind of the same thing. It's whatever you talk about in the dressing room before the game, whatever is the plan just goes out the window, and it's like let's just find a way to win a game. It doesn't matter. The momentum swings are crazy, and I think just trying to manage your emotions in that moment and know that you're 60 minutes of work away from doing something really special, or something that you might regret for a long time, or it may come back to haunt you. And winning's hard, and it's not a lot of people get a chance to win. And so I consider myself very fortunate that I've had a few opportunities to win something. And Yeah, you definitely don't take it for granted.
No, for sure. And one thing that Stu and I on the podcast over the last few years have always wanted to try and do is not just celebrate the team success. You're going to play with a bunch of guys from Adrian College, for example. They won a national championship, and we like to talk to those boys about that. But the individual success is important as well because you're on the all tournament team for your senior year, which, like we say, considering some of the great talent that was rocking around in Hockey East back then, that must be quite an honor that you look back on fondly.
No, for sure. I think, it's kind of based on how you do in that tournament, I think. So, maybe was a little fortunate to get hot at the right time and to be playing, arguably my best hockey of my college career at that time, just felt very comfortable with my game and I was put in a situation to succeed. And that's, I think, what every player wants is that opportunity to try to produce and contribute in any way they can. And, I didn't have the flashiest of years, I guess, in terms of my numbers, but I felt like I was really, really dialed in and really fortunate to win that honor.
Certainly popping up when it was important. It was a big goal in, was it game two against Notre Dame? You must remember that one pretty fondly.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that one for sure. Probably one of my nicer ones.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that goal. I don't think I've seen it. So,
Yeah, I just caught a puck at the top of the circle on power play and just ripped one high blocker and yeah, it felt good.
I think no
This was
matter.
it was a big goal and a big moment. Like we were obviously kind of came in there game one and stunned them, and then we had done terrible against them early in the year, and it was a huge hurdle at the time. And so yeah, to score a big goal like that in a clinching game was awesome.
The national tournament is always a little bit of a luck of the draw early on, I think. And you run into North Dakota, who I think were ranked 3 in the country at that time. And they actually went on to win the national championship that year. That must have been a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, we were obviously just the lowest seed, scraping in to get by. There was no way we were going to make it unless we won the Hockey East tournament, just mathematically. Our schedule wasn't, wins weren't enough, so we needed to win that tournament. And yeah, for sure, to draw the best team in college hockey that year was a tough draw, but it was awesome. Like those moments in those games, like we got beat, pretty handily, but it was a great experience to play against, some more NHLers and Besser and Kajula and Schmaltz. Like it was fun to, compete against the best. And yeah, obviously so it stings a little less knowing that they won for sure.
Stu, I'll hand it over to you, sir.
It's for those who are not familiar with sort of college hockey, it's well worth looking at that North Dakota roster from that year because there was a lot of very good players on that team, and I have to admit, having looked at it, it's no wonder that they went on to win the national championship because it was a very talented set of individuals. But for yourself, Colton, you that wasn't enough. You do the national championship, you're in the tournament, and then you think, actually, I quite fancy playing some more hockey, and you end up going to the ECHL in South Carolina. How does that work? Are you not tired enough
Yeah.
from playing playing a full season of college?
No, I think I just was, school had kind of reached a point where, senior year was, I had played catch up, I had struggled my first 2 years just finding my groove academically, but I worked really hard to catch up and make sure that my senior year was a little lighter, just to try to enjoy that a little more and stuff. And so it was worked out that I only had one final and I could take it remote, and so it kind of was like, yeah, I just want to keep playing. We had gone on such a cool run at the end of the season. Like I felt like I still had energy to try to like keep playing. And, I just sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking when you're, a free agent and not drafted, not necessarily highly touted, undersized defenseman. I think I was maybe a little worried that if I waited, nobody would take a chance on me. But, to just get a look and a taste of it at the end of the season, my thought was that's only going to benefit me. It's not going to hurt me. Um, yeah, and Spencer Carberry was my coach in South Carolina and just brought me in for his talk to me was we're going to bring you in for the last 4 games of the regular season and then we'll just kind of go from there. And then ended up making the playoff roster and stick around and lose in the Eastern Conference Finals of, first year pro. So it's kind of just a whirlwind of like this is awesome. I just want to keep playing. And so, yeah, I was definitely fortunate that he took a chance on me and that, I played well enough to stay.
Yeah, and that must be sort of a great confidence booster for yourself. Like you say, he said, come in for 4 games of the regular season and then see how it goes, and then cracking that. Your stats online suggest 15 playoff games that you got into as a rookie. Coming in with zero pro experience to a team that was, it was a solid team in South Carolina that year. To crack that lineup at such a late stage, it really gives yourself a vote of confidence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just just the respect. We had an older team, so it was just nice to be around and learn. I think that's what I wanted to do more than anything was just like learn how to be a good pro. And there's a certain level of dedication and the the commitment to what you're doing, and especially when you go on these long playoff runs in the American League and in the ECHL, it's just a grind. It's a grind, and just learning how to do that and to stay enthusiastic when it's 80 and sunny and all you want to do is be on the golf course. Like how to maintain that focus and like know that we were chasing after something really big. And so it was just an older team, and I think that it helped me grow up a lot. Obviously, being an older college player, I was 24 by the time I started playing pro. So like felt like I'd matured a little bit. I could cook myself meals. I wasn't an 18-year-old who was like still learning how to do laundry, so like it was an adjustment, I guess, in that sense, but I just tried to be a sponge and soak up everything and try to learn.
And you obviously, hockey's fully part of your life at that point when you sort of finishing college and going off did that sort of solidify like, yeah, actually definitely want to go pro, like properly, like I've had a bit of a taste of it, few games, played the playoffs, this is my future, I'm definitely going to carry on with this?
Yeah, for sure. I think my goal was originally growing up was just I wanted to try to play college, and anything after that was going to be a bonus. And if I got it, great. And if not, then had my degree to fall back on, and I'd be working a regular job. So I think was fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time, and I think all of us, whatever level we reach, is partly based on timing. So I think that there was good timing involved, and I was luckily enough to step in and make an impact and be able to stay. So
And we would be amiss if we didn't mention your beard at this point. Was it about then when you started growing it out, playoff time, or was it earlier? We've myself and Ed have been trying to look and try and sort of like date the pictures, but we're coming up a little bit short.
yeah,
So was it roughly that sort of time?
yeah, it was. I wasn't allowed to grow it at Northeastern. Our head coach was. We kind of had the Yankees and the Maple Leafs motto with he wanted short hair and no facial hair, and so it rubbed me the wrong way. Obviously, I was concealing this thing for 4 years and just eating me alive. But yeah, once I got to pro, I was like, nobody can check that until I went to camp with the Maple Leafs, and then I had to shave it. But yeah.
Yeah, is it that just one point where it's a tryout for the Maple Leafs, which you kind of, I guess at that stage, you thinking of your sort of journey in pro hockey, you take that one on the chin as a kind of like,
Yeah, I
I'm gonna have
mean,
to,
yeah,
can't
I
eat this one.
got the call that I was going to be invited to Marley's camp, and yeah, that was the condition of me being able to come was I had to shave. So
Uh, Nonetheless, the following year after you're in the playoffs, you end up with South Carolina, but then get traded to Manchester, and then have another deep run in the playoffs. But you end up running up against South Carolina in the game 7. That must be difficult because there must be some conflicted feelings there, because for yourself, obviously you lose in game 7 to South Carolina and you're bitterly disappointed, but you've got friends and former teammates on the other side of the ice who are quite happy, so it must feel quite a strange feeling.
yeah, it definitely was for sure. I mean, spent 3/4 of the season building for something and shared, goals and dreams and rough moments, hard moments, like all those things that you put into it for sure. And it's just part of the business though too. I do understand it and, tried to give my all and make the most of that move. And, we definitely did. And it was a great series. I mean, could have gone either way, honestly. And, but yeah, it was definitely a hard pill to swallow for sure.
I 100%. I think any game seven, it's always a toss of a coin at that point, because you've got two very evenly matched sides that have won three each on the way there. So a bounce here and there, and that's often the difference. You spent a few years in the ECHL, all told, but a lot of that time was kind of peppered with call-ups and sort of time spent up, and there's a lots of different AHL call-ups, lots of different organizations. There's one notable one that you were up in Utica for a little bit, and quite a few games up there, and then you get sat down by ESPN to come and have an interview. How does that go? You're sort of journeying around the ECHL, and then all of a sudden ESPN want to come and talk to you. It must feel, kind of surreal in some ways.
Yeah, I had played a few years, I think up to that point, 3 or 4 by then. And so I wasn't necessarily like new to the American League or the ECHL, obviously. And yeah, just get on the right timeline and somebody's post works, and suddenly I'm getting interviewed for ESPN. And yeah, it was fun. It was cool little 15 minutes, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun. And I met my wife in Utica, and so many great things came out of that. And I was hoping that maybe I could find a way to stay up and be a regular in the American League. It's tough. It's so many good players and so many guys that get so close. And again, part of it's timing. Am I what this team needs right now? Or, who did the NHL club draft? Like there's just a lot of things that go into it and making that jump. But, the difference between the coast and the American League is small, right? Just like the gap between the NHL and the American League is small. Like it's the details, and you know, it's very difficult to crack that league.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail right on the head there. That it is fine margins. You've got things like the veteran rule, the draft, all these things that contribute towards whether you stick around in an organization at any given time. You ended up going off after that. You went to Boise and played in Idaho. It's a pretty place to play hockey in the world. It must be a bit different from all of the sort of the East Coast sort of style that you do, or at least geography that you'd seen.
Yeah, no, it's basically growing up in Colorado, right? Like got the mountains, and Boise's a very cool town, college town, but it's got a small, big feel to it. The fan base there is super passionate about the team. They invest a lot of time and money into that team, and the setup there for the players is great. And so I had a couple friends play there, and again worked out getting traded there too from Manchester was cool, and really embraced being there, and absolutely loved my time there.
And the season that the year was going pretty well, and but for COVID, probably heading off to another round of playoffs. And if you look at your
Another game 7 loss, is that what you were going to say?
No, but we might come to that in just a moment. But the every ECHL season you played, bar the COVID year, you've got into the playoffs. So there's a good run of being on good solid winning teams. Which one was the closest to the Kelly Cup?
It's hard to sit back in hindsight for that 2020 season, but we were cooking along pretty good there when the season ended. I think we were second in the West and had won 6 or 7 in a row, and we were creeping at the right time. But honestly, that first year in South Carolina, I think was probably the closest that we were. Like, we arguably before they had cameras in the net and goal review, but arguably we won that series in game 6. But so had we had video review, we probably would have won game 6, and we wouldn't have even been in that situation. But yeah, I think that first year South Carolina team was so special, and Spencer Carberry was obviously very instrumental in giving me a chance in my pro career. So I just, idolized him and his hockey philosophy, and, who he was as a person. And so I think that first year, that team I definitely thought we would win that year.
Well, there's definitely some parallels to the history of the Coventry Blaze there. Those of us who are long enough in the tooth will remember a trip to the Continental Cup where Jonathan Weaver's goal definitely crossed the line. But for a video review, that was it was a 1-0 game the other way.
Yeah.
And that would have been Continental Cup final, or that would have been a bit of success there for the Blaze. And in COVID, I think myself and Ed have said it many times that the team that year was on a bit of a roll, and I would have backed us to win the playoffs in 2020. But continuing on from there, the sort of 2020-2021 season, you take the move across to Europe and play in Innsbruck. Was that COVID related? You just trying desperately to find somewhere to play, or was there always a thought, I'd quite fancy going over to Europe and playing some hockey over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had always envisioned trying it out. I think first couple of years of pro, and you hear guys talk about the experiences that they've had, or friends of theirs have gone, and the hockey world's so small in a way, and so we all kind of have played with somebody who knows somebody, and so I think it was always kind of a goal to go check it out, and I love traveling and wanted to experience it. I think COVID kind of forced a lot of guys into that situation of like, all right, I'm going to retire and be done, or I'm going to go to Europe and check that out, And so I think it was just it was a good timing move for me. I had offers in previous years, to leave, and I just wanted to give myself a real shot at trying to, make the NHL, give myself that chance to do it. And obviously it was a long shot, but I don't regret, putting in the time in the American League and the Coast. And yeah, I think I was ready to move when COVID hit, and there was, questions if the NHL and the American League and the Coast would be going at all, what that would look like, and the European teams seemed to be somewhat had a handle on managing it, or how to, keep the players safe. And so I just thought that it'd be a cool experience, and yeah, Innsbruck is beautiful.
Yeah, so if you were to put it Innsbruck or Idaho, which the Boise, which one's the prettier place to play hockey?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Innsbruck for sure. I mean, that team and that city is it was tough with the regulations and some of the restrictions with things being closed that year, but that city is just like, it looks like it's out of a magazine. It doesn't look real at times, just with its beauty. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed my time there.
But that season in the ECHL, there was a lot of very familiar names to people from the Elite League, and obviously yourself, some of your former teammates, Tansy, Ciampini, Sexru Danielson, Sidorov, Sam Hare, Tom McCollum. That was, it's a good league there. So how does that league compare to the Elite League from having played in both now?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think that the Austrian players obviously might be a little ahead of the curve in terms of like just maybe the instruction and the coaching that they get in certain areas. I think maybe growing up, they might have that advantage in terms of just their development, which obviously the UK has taken huge strides and will only continue to get better as hockey, gets more widely accepted and continues to grow. And I really do think that there's a market for it here. And, every fan base that we go play in this league is, super special in its own way, and each arena has character in its own way, and so I think the sky's the limit for them. I think currently, right now, the Austrian league might attract guys who are maybe just out of the American League, or just based off of just what they're paying guys, maybe. But I don't think that the UK is far behind on that. I think the depth, obviously, we were fortunate enough last year in Champions League and even Belfast the year before to, hey, every player in this league is a good player, and our teams can battle with the best teams in Europe. And so any league, I think, on any day can beat anybody, right? So it was definitely different, but I think that, I have enjoyed both.
It's almost as if you've read our script, Colton. So I'll pass you on to Ed, because I think there's some relevant questions coming up.
I think I've done a few of these, so I think I know where the conversation like leads,
All right. Well, I guess I'll maybe try and throw some curveball in just because I can.
Okay.
You had a pit stop in Texas in Allen, and there was a spell there before, just not long before you arrived there where they won. I think they don't come on really three-peated, but they certainly went back to back in the Kelly Cup, and they were led by a young man called Chad Costello, who was your coach in Allen, and is a little bit of a legend in those parts. What was it like playing under him?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, we had just gotten back from Slovakia and I ran into some issues with my wife not getting her visa. And so I actually couldn't go back to Europe for 6 months because she got banned from the EU for overstaying her 90 days because the team never got her a visa. So that's why I went to play in Allen for the year because I wasn't obviously going to leave to go play in Europe without my wife. But yeah, I mean, Costi, I played against Costi growing up, and we were playing in the 3-on-3 league during the summer together, and yeah, we were just out one night having a beer after one of the games, and he was like, "Come play for me in Allen, and we can try to do something cool." And yeah, I loved my time down there, and yeah, going to a team that had won before, and some of the guys were still there from those teams, and it was a great experience.
He was just for reference, but when everyone kind of hits the elite prospects there, for 3 years he had three consecutive 100-point seasons in the regular season, and then went on to be well over a point a game in the coast. So in the playoffs, sorry. So a real almost a throwback guy because you don't get that all that often in the ECHL these days. I mean, it used to be you could have a couple guys every year, but not so much these days. But I guess that kind of almost brings us up to date. It brings us up to the start of your elite league career because at some point that phone rings. Aaron Fox says, "I've got a very nice orange sweater I'd like you to wear for a year or two." How did you end up getting recruited into Sheffield? And yeah, what kind of influenced the decision?
Yeah, I think it was after the COVID year, the 2020-21 year, when you guys were doing the tournament or whatever, and Foxy had called me then I had just finished in Innsbruck, and he wanted to know if I wanted to come play then, and I think it just had been a long year, and um, I think I just wanted to regroup and get home. But I told him, at some point, I definitely wanted to come check out the UK league again. Had friends that played in this league and said they enjoyed themselves, and it was on my list. I think I just wanted to, you know, just continue to bounce around and see different things, different places, and so when the time came, he called me at the end of the season in Allen, and I was like, hey, I'm getting ready to get married. Let me just take time and think about it. And it was actually Daniel Champini, at my wedding. He just kept feeding me tequila, and then he told me that we were all going to Sheffield together, and apparently I agreed while I was drunk, so I didn't remember. But so yeah, we just all agreed, and obviously spoke to Foxy after that, and told him that I was excited to come, and that we were finally, after 3 years. I think it took 3 years of him calling me every summer to get me to go there, and but yeah, I was definitely looking forward to it. I'd been friends with Champ for a long time, and um, Kev had grown to be a really good friend, and just through Innsbruck and our time together in Košice, someone who I really respected and loved, and yeah, so I was really excited about all three of us going.
Oh no, for sure. And let's be honest, like you walk through the door for the first time. I mean, even before you play a game, they have the player announcement show, and then you've got the razzle dazzle of the of the home opener, and that just kind of continues for all 40 odd games that you play in that barn. Was it pretty quick that you realized I've made a good decision here?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, what we dealt with that year was, I definitely went through moments where I was like, do I even want to keep playing? And that thought had crossed my mind, and something that never had really happened before in hockey happened, and so a part of it was like, whoa, this is crazy that this has happened here, but the way our locker room and the community rallied around us, and around Adam and the situation that happened, and I think that it turned out to be you know really um, just a bonding moment for every guy in that locker room, and I think we'll be bonded forever, through what we went through that season.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And um, maybe in some ways part of the great success that you had that year on the ice in terms of the Grand Slam, because that is very, very special and doesn't happen all the time. So I guess just tell us a little bit about kind of that building success throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously you just trying to pick up the pieces after that happened, and I think we just wanted to see if we could still do it and enjoy it, and get over the trauma that each of us dealt with in a different way. Um, I think it was just a focus of, we got to do this for Matt. We don't want to take obviously all of us are guilty of looking at life and making plans, but sometimes tomorrow is never guaranteed. And so I think we just try to enjoy each day being with each other and working hard. And I think that, just there was just a lot of trust and, people being vulnerable, and, we continued having discussions throughout the year about it. And there was always an open door with the coaching staff, and they were really human beings about it, and I think that that's what gave us the success, was because it felt safe, and we felt comfortable there with each other, and we knew that we could rely on the guy next to us to do everything he could to pull the rope in the right direction. And for sure, you need some luck to win. Like obviously, if anybody says that you don't need luck to win, then they're crazy. Like you got to have right time, right place, and the right group of guys, and everybody believing in the same thing, and you got to get some bounces, too. And there's definitely some games you look back on and did we get fortunate to win? For sure. But I think just collectively the effort that we put in, it was just a beautiful season of hockey.
With the super highs and the super lows, I mean, the organization did something right to make you want to ante up, because I think it would have been quite easy to say, you know what, all things considered, let's go try something else. But you did ante back up, and again, a year that you guys got to play some Champions League hockey, and we always catch probably a little bit of flack for supporting the Sheffield Steelers at times. I don't know why, for whatever reason, they've ended up becoming the enemy of the Elite League for certain areas, but that's how it is. But we were all kind of cheering you on, I think, in the Champions League, and making it through to the playoff rounds is a big achievement. That really is a big statement. And only falling to Berlin, who ended up winning the Dell last year with young Mr. Kirk at the rudder. Just talk to us about playing that Champions League hockey and kind of balancing that schedule with all that goes on in the Elite League, because the Elite League in itself is a bit of a grind.
Yeah, for sure. The the setup that the league has with the three trophies, and the league being the main trophy, and that every single weekend is very important. And obviously you saw it came down to points, this year, and could have gone either way going into that last weekend. But yeah, it was hard for sure. I mean, the extra games and the travel wasn't ideal, and it is exhausting on a certain level. It was hard. We faced some injuries too. Some guys got hurt at key times. I was out for a bit, concussion. Greener went down. So you lose some pieces at some moments that affect your league and your cup performances as well. And so it was awesome to get to the round of 16. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play, but watching both those games, I mean, we played well enough to win both of those games, honestly. And it came down to little things here and there that definitely made the difference. But it was, it just proved that the league is continuing to grow and get stronger, and can compete in the English style of hockey that, I'd say is a little more North American style, just trying to be a little more physical and, taking pride in the forecheck and playing defense. And, against these teams that are the best teams in the world, it's a challenge. I mean, I felt like there were some games against Zurich and Freiburg. I don't know if I touched the puck much. They just seemed to have it on a string, and just a very different style of hockey with, constantly circling and gaining speed and maintaining possession, and not really chipping the puck in. And so it was an adjustment. Like, it was hard to defend against that. And yeah, we were, I think everybody on our squad going into that that pool was like, oh man, we drew a tough draw for this. And going in, I didn't have expectation that we'd get to this, the round of 16. So I think it was a huge achievement on our part. And, we just believed in what we were doing. And I thought that, we surprised a lot of teams for sure.
I think speaking of surprises, because it brings us pretty much up to the present day, there was a very pleasant surprise when everybody's phone went off a couple of weeks ago, and it was saying that Colton Saucerman had switched orange for blaze blue. Just tell us a little bit about the process of the phone ringing and Kevin Moore's on the other line, and he's trying to rope you into joining us here. How did that all come about?
Yeah, it's, longer story than we probably have time for, but Kevin and my wife have had a really good friendship for a long time, coaching together, running goalie schools and stuff. And, I think it was definitely getting close to the end of this career. And so I just wanted to be in a good spot to, start a family. And, I think that it even caught me a little by surprise as well. But that being said, like I couldn't be more excited about being here and starting a family and all these other beautiful things that, go with being a hockey player and continuing to compete. And, I feel really healthy and ready. And, I still have a lot that I want to prove. And, I think that with the team that Kev's put together, I think we can do some shocking possibly. And, I tipped my cap to him last year and I told him this, like, I absolutely hated playing against Coventry last year. It was tough. And, the difference, obviously Danny Stewart did a great job the year, years prior, but I think even just the steps they took from my first year to this year, like, Kev, I believe in Kev and his philosophies and, the culture that he's trying to build here. And so I'm thankful to be given the opportunity to play, right? So that's yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, what was it that made his team so difficult to play against last year? Because as you said a few times, fine margins, and the Blaze probably could have won something last year too.
Yeah, I absolutely. And like I said, every time we played them, it was a battle. And I mean, you guys worked us a couple times last year, good. And just that I think the speed and the work ethic that of the guys that were here, last year, and he's brought some core pieces back. And I think just the relentlessness of the forecheck and defending very hard and making it difficult for teams with potentially maybe more skilled players. It made it very, very difficult to play. And there wasn't a time where my face wasn't getting run into the glass by Tallberg and I wasn't getting chirped, by somebody. And so they just made it hard to play. And I think that that's, something that we're going to continue on to do. And that's a style that I love and appreciate it. I try to be hard to play against. And so Kev told me that I'll fit in great. So.
The home ice is always like it's your palace, it's your home away from home, and for away players, the Skydome's got a bit of a reputation of being a particularly difficult barn to come into. And why is that? Do you think, having been on the away bench, and you must be really relieved that you get to sit on the home bench for that?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure, it is a difficult rink to play in. I think given the boards are a little lively and um, maybe some of the edging there might be some kicks in some places and stuff, but I think it's also dark, like the ceiling's low, it's loud, like it's very intense when you're there, as an opposing team, just from you feel like the fan base is right on top of you. I'm hearing stuff from behind me, like just focusing on what you're doing. It is a difficult place to play for sure. There's no doubt about it. Um, so I think that, it's definitely going to be something that I'll continue to have to get used to, just with the lighting and the boards bouncing in my favor this time. Hopefully, if I can learn exactly where they are. And but yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I've always felt that Coventry had a good fan base, and every time we played there, it was a great environment. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we're in August. Well, I mean, 31st of July for while we're recording this. So when it goes out, we'll be in August, and the team is pretty much there. I think we've got a couple of pieces left to add to the puzzle. Have you done what everybody in I think in the hockey world over does, and go on Elite Prospects, have a little look at who your teammates are going to be, and if so, what are your thoughts on the roster that Kev's built so far?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. Kevin and I, obviously he's asked for my input on certain things, just with, if I know a guy or guys that he might be looking at, and but obviously all these decisions are his, and I'm just, I think, another ear to bounce something off of, and I appreciate that he respects my my knowledge, or maybe the friendships that I might have with these people just over the years. But I mean, I think he's done a good job of at getting some high octane forwards, some guys that can really put the puck in the net. And I think he's definitely rounded out the D core, with some other guys, bringing some other guys over from the coast, and adding a little bit of grit. I think obviously Robson coming back is huge. I thought he was incredible every time he played against us, and obviously his numbers were great last season. So I know that he's only going to continue to build off of that, and to have that position solidified, and to feel confident with him in the net every night. That's those are big pieces. And so yeah, I think the next step is for us to put it all together, and that starts here in August.
In fact, it's actually started now, realistically, hasn't it, Colton? Because you got to stick around this summer. So I guess just tell us a little bit about that, because it's quite exciting why you got to stick around. And how have those little sneaky skates at the Skydome been?
Yeah, they're good. No, it's been nice to be settled a little bit, and every year it's a little hectic traveling over and stuff. And so this year it was nice not to have to do that and just make the 2 hour drive. But yeah, it's been great, and getting adjusted to the arena, and all set up at the gym and stuff here. It's been great. Training's been good so far this summer, and just enjoying the all the big things that are going to be happening soon here.
No, absolutely. And we appreciate us being able to tear you away from that for a little while. And I mean, you must be as looking forward to pulling on the Blaze Blue as we are to see you in it.
I am, man. Yeah, I really am. And obviously, we'll have to see if we can find a baby size for a little sauce to fit into some blue too.
I think Nick from 5-on-3. That's a job for him. We'll set him the little challenge. Colton, thank you so much for doing this, buddy. We really appreciate it. We're very glad you're on our side, and we'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks when the Blaze hit the ice. And guys, we'll be seeing you on the next edition of the Blaze TV podcast. Bye for now.